This video will show you how to replace the front upper control arm on a Cadillac CTS. This is part of the front steering and suspension located behind the front wheel. Let's get into it. Just a quick note about doing this job, you will need a four-wheel alignment when you're done. Let's get ready to remove our front wheel. To do that, the first thing we have to do is safely raise and support the front of the vehicle so the wheel's off the ground. Once you've done that, you're going to remove all 5 of your 19mm lug nuts so we can get the wheel off of here. Now that we have the wheel out of the way, we're looking deep inside this area. We can see where our upper control arm and our front strut are. We need to remove the pair at the same time. With that said, we can see where our upper ball joint connects to our steering knuckle. We're going to remove our 18mm headed pinch bolt. We have an 18mm nut as well. Gotta make sure we have some movement here. I'll just use my hammer and a punch. A couple light taps should work this out in place. A thorough inspection of all hardware as we continue on, replace as necessary. We'll use some penetrant in this area. Now continuing on, I'm going to tap on this with a hammer. We're attempting to remove the ball joint stud from inside of the steering knuckle. If you needed to, you could use a small chisel. In this small area here, you can see a groove. That'll help separate the two ears, releasing the ball joint stud. Let's attempt to tap first with a hammer. Now, as you can tell, this is separating the way that we need to. Just keep in mind that this could potentially fall outward. We want to make sure you're safe at all times. We'll hold on to that steering knuckle. With that separated, the next thing I like to do is pause inside the wheel well area, and we're going to make our way inside of the engine compartment next. From up inside the engine compartment along either side of the vehicle, we're looking for our upper mounting hardware. Now you can see 4 18mm headed bolts out in the open. You'll have a 5th one tucked in and behind the strut tower. That's the one I'm going to start with. We're using an 18mm for all 5 of these mounting bolts. At this point, we're done in this area for now. Let's make our way back down inside the front wheel well. Back inside the front wheel well, we're following our front strut all the way down to the lower control arm next. Down along this area, you're going to find that you have 2 13mm headed mounting bolts. We have one on the forward side, and we have one on the rearward side. These are holding the front strut assembly to the lower control arm. Go ahead and remove the pair. Just keep in mind, these are the last things holding this strut in place. For this next one, I'm going to be holding onto the front strut assembly so it does not fall out while I continue on. Let's give this a wiggle and we can carefully pull it out of place. Let's get this over to the bench. Now that I have this on the bench, we can see the angle of our upper control arm compared to the front strut. This is approximately where we would want to have it for the original ride height position of the suspension during the installation process. For now, let's continue on with the removal process of the control arm from the front strut assembly. Looking along either side of this, you can see that we have an 18mm headed mounting bolt coming from the outboard side towards the inboard side. On the inboard side, an 18mm mounting nut. Let's go ahead and remove that bolt and mounting nut from this side, and I'll repeat the process on the other side. Keep in mind, once you loosen these, this could potentially come down in one direction or the other. Just be aware of any pinch points. Those look good. Repeat the process on the other side. Now let's separate the two. There it is, friend. A quick inspection and we'll set this aside. Now let's prepare to install the brand new upper control arm. Let's bring our control arm in towards our front strut assembly. We're going to align each mounting point on the side. We'll start our mounting bolts through from the outboard side towards the inboard side, and then we'll lightly snug them. We are not fully tightening them. We'll have to make adjustments and torque in the end. They're both started in. Now I'm just going to lightly snug them. I do want to have the ability to pivot this as necessary. Let's get this over to the vehicle. Before we get this back in the vehicle, let's make sure we clean and inspect the mounting area. I'm just using a clean rag. We'll give this a quick wipe. Now, as we look closely at this, we can see several circular ports. I've marked 2 in yellow. Those are for the alignment tabs on the top of your strut assembly. So when we start bringing this into position, those are where those 2 tabs would need to slide into. Now everything looks good here. Looking along the top of our strut assembly, we can see those 2 locating tabs. Let's get this in place. Now we're starting with the bottom. We're going to start bringing this down and behind our front control arm. Carefully bring it up along the top, aligning our alignment tabs. We're swinging this into the proper position. Now that I have that in place, I'm going to start with the lower hardware next. I like to use some anti-seize on my mounting bolts. We'll align this as necessary. Start in each one of the 2 mounting bolts. After that, we'll have to apply upward pressure under the control arm, snug these up, and torque them to 18 foot-pounds. So I'm just applying support underneath the control arm. Start raising this up. We want to apply upward pressure. Now that I do have pressure on this area, I'm going to torque each one of these 2 mounting bolts to 18 foot-pounds. My torque wrench here. Now I always like to continue with the installation of my front strut assembly prior to continuing on with too much else here. So what I would mention for this is, since I am up high, I'm working on a lift, I have to switch out the support underneath my control arm. I'm going to be using a small floor jack with a piece of wood under here while I continue on inside of the engine compartment. If you're already down low, just go ahead and leave the support that you have there and make your way up. So I'm up along the top of the strut tower and I still have pressure underneath my lower control arm. We have 5 18mm headed mounting bolts. We'll start them all in, snug them up, and then torque them to 83 foot-pounds. You can see those locating tabs. Just flex that AC line. Just as I mentioned, 83 foot-pounds for each of the 5 18mm bolts. Torque wrench in here. Okay, everything's torqued here. This looks good. Let's make our way back towards that wheel well. So now inside of the wheel well, I'm bringing my jack underneath my control arm. I'm going to start applying upward pressure. We want to get the vehicle's suspension at the original ride height position if possible. Now once you've done that, let's start looking up along the top where the upper ball joint connects to our steering knuckle. Up along the top area, before we install the ball joint stud into the knuckle, we'll just take some anti-seize, a thin layer should do here. That'll help as a lubricant, but it also helps ensure that the ball joint stud won't get stuck in the knuckle, just in case you ever have to remove it again. So let's pivot this knuckle into position. We'll slide the ball joint stud down into place and continue on with our pinch bolt. The pinch bolt comes through from the front towards the rear. Just gotta get the right angle with the ball joint. As far as our pinch bolt, I've used some anti-seize on the smooth portion. Let's slide this through. You can tap it with a hammer if necessary. Now once you have the ball joint nut started on to the ball joint bolt, go ahead and snug it up and torque it to 44 foot-pounds. At this point, while I still have the suspension in the ride height position, I'm going to snug and torque each one of my 2 bolts holding the control arm to my front shock assembly. I'm going to torque these bolts to 44 foot-pounds. There's one. I'll just do the same for the other. Now for this next mounting bolt, the rearward side here, I find that it's easiest to hold the mounting nut and then torque the bolt side. There we go. Okay, we finished torquing both sides of the upper control arm in place. Now we can remove support from under that lower control arm. Let's lower that suspension. Now one last quick inspection in this area and we can reinstall our front wheel. With that in place, we'll continue on to all 5 of our 19mm lug nuts. We'll start them on, get the wheel back on the ground, torque each of them to 100 foot-pounds in a crisscross manner. So I've got my wheel back on the ground. I'm going to torque each one of my lug nuts to that 100 foot-pounds in a crisscross manner. Okay friend, we finished our installation. Now the next thing you have to do is take your vehicle for a road test. You're going to listen for any odd noises and get yourself a 4-wheel alignment. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.